Hello, this is David Murray. This video will be an introduction to small stakes heads up pot limit Omaha. Heads up meaning 2 players only. I'm going to be playing 2 tables on full tilt poker, and I'm going to explain my play as I go along, as I play. So, at the moment I'm waiting for some opponents here, so I'm going to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about why you might play heads up, and then about some general principles that you'll want to think about while playing heads up. So, why play heads up? There are a lot of different reasons. It's a very pure game. You play against one other player, like most sports. Most games only involve 2 players or 2 teams. This is very similar to other games like that. Even a game of football where you have 22 players, it's still 11 against 11, one team against the other. There aren't very many situations like poker where you have everyone for himself and everyone interacting with other players. There's no risk of being colluded against. If you sit down at a table with more players at it, you have to. You always might be afraid that 2 of the other players are working together, or more than that. The game is a lot more interesting. Thirdly, when you're involved in more pots, when you have to play every hand, when you have to fight over every pot. Once you fold, or the other guy folds, the hand is over. You move on to the next hand, and you're back in that hand again. And most importantly, the most important reason for a lot of people to play heads up is because you will be involved in more pots. So you and your opponent have a chance to make more mistakes, and this means more potential profit for you. Every time your opponent makes a mistake, you're the one who has a chance to benefit from it. Some things to think about while playing heads up. The most important thing is to get an idea how your opponent plays. Often, if you're in a game with more players, you won't have as good a read on any one opponent. You'll have to make the plays you would make against a default or a random or an average or an unknown opponent. Playing heads up, you won't really have that luxury. You'll have to exploit your opponent's mistakes, and you'll have to figure out very quickly what his typical mistakes are. Try and figure out, for example, if he calls too much, bluffs too much, doesn't bluff enough, doesn't get value from his good hands. So both of these hands, we have a pair of kings here. Some people will play a hand as bad as this heads up, but I think with 3 of a kind in your hand, you're just asking for trouble. I'll throw this one away. I'm going to continuation bet most hands that I raise pre-flop on the button. Here I've got an overpair. It's likely to be the best hand. Could need protection against straight draws, flush draws. Over here again, top pair, probably the best hand. And some kind of straight draw. Okay, that's not a good card for us, this diamond on the turn. I'm just going to check this back and probably give up on the river as well. For here we've hit trips. We've certainly got a very good hand here. And I'd say there's a good chance this guy has us beat, but even though we rivered a 5, I'd say I expected that there's a good chance he hit a jack or a flush. Another bad hand here. From your button, you should be raising most of your hands. I'm going to be raising maybe 75% of my hands, but I am going to be throwing away the worst ones. Again, bet in position. This time we've hit something pretty good. There's a good hand over here. And this is a bad hand. I might open this from the button. It's pretty marginal even then. All these small cards. But I'm not going to defend my big blind with it. So some general pointers for playing heads up is that you are going to have to be aggressive. You're going to have to get value from your good hands and from your not only from your nut hands, but also from your good but not great hands. Hands that are likely to be best, but that are vulnerable, that aren't the absolute nuts. Okay, this hand here I called called with this fairly decent hand uh, from the big blind. I'm just going to give it up on this flop. I've got a good shot, but that's all. I could have 3-bet pre-flop. That's the only way I could think of playing this hand differently. Over here, once again I've hit a decent hand on the flop. This hand I'll just let go. All these unconnected cards. And I think there's a good chance this guy could be cutting me down fairly light. Hopefully he's even hit a straight on the river here. Alright, well he folded pretty quickly. I'd say there's a good chance he had a flush draw. Particularly after I've already been aggressive on this table, that he didn't give me too much credit, that he was calling me down quite light. And I won't play this. So here, this is a continuation bet with absolutely nothing, which is often a better spot to bet than when you actually have some small chance of winning the pot. If I'd a weak hand that nevertheless wanted to see one more card, that I could have hit something, maybe a good shot and nothing else, then I might have just checked behind if I was worried about getting check raised. Over here, a very coordinated board, I'll just fold this. And I guess I could play this hand, but I'm going to fold it. Over here we've made a wrap. Any 5, 8, 9 or 10 gives us a straight. Not all of those cards give us the nuts, but pretty close. So I'm going to raise this guy. I hope he goes away, but if he gets it all in, it's okay as well. Over here I've made top pair with some good kickers. This isn't really a great hand in Omaha, but certainly worth peeling one off, seeing what happens here. I'll fold here. And I'm tempted to bet here. If I hadn't been running this guy over, I would probably just bet here, turn my hand into a bluff. I think he might be likely to call me down a little bit light here, just after that last hand where I flop trips. So I'm going to check back. Maybe it'll go check check and I'll win in the river with these two pair. And I certainly don't think there's any value in betting here. He's not going to call me with any worse. And as it happens, he has 3 6s. And I kind of think I made the right decision there. I suspect the way he's been playing so far that he was planning to call one bet with those 3 6s. I'll just let this one go. Over here I've got 2 pair. This would be a hand to think about calling down an aggressive opponent with. In this case we've no reason to think he's aggressive. There's a good chance he's got a better hand. And if he's any ace, he's a lot of outs against us to make too big a pair, so I'm just going to let this go. Over here I got a bit of a monster pre-flop, kings and fives. Still a good hand on the flop. This is an okay hand, not the best. I'm going to play this flop with it. And this is such a bad flop for us. We have 1 pair, but no real draw, no way to make the nuts. And it's very plausible that he is a good hand here, so I'm just going to fold. Here, pair of 10s, not much else. I'll play this hand. And I've hit nothing here. Okay, now this might not be a bad spot to try a bluff here. There's no reason to think he's got a good hand. He's just raised a continuation bet. He's continuation bet quite a lot of flops. And the ace is kind of scary because it makes it hard for him to call with lower pairs. And it's possible we even folded him off an ace there. What have I hit here? Here I've hit 2 straight draws and no pair. I might have been best just to lead out in this flop. really don't have much of a hand here, and folding might be best. Yeah, okay, I'm just going to fold. I was originally planning to call and see what the turn brought, but we don't have very many nut outs. Here he's 3-bet me very tiny. I'm going to have to call this, see what the flop brings. I have no idea what this 3-bet, this small 3-bet means from this guy, but he's only got half a stack here, and I'm not. I think anyone with half a stack, someone who 3-bets is going to be interested in committing to their hand. It's not usually a good spot to bluff them. Over here we had a pair, had top pair. We've now turned a straight draw, flush draw. We still have one pair. I should maybe be 3-betting some of these hands from the blinds, but I let this one go. And I'll just check down. I don't know, I'll let this one go even for the small bet. And likewise over here, let this go. The 7 could have hit some hands. We really don't have very much here. And he's made a big pot size bet. Okay, over here I've got 2 pair, a decent hand. This is a hand worth folding even on the button. And a weak hand, again not worth defending the blinds with. Okay, this guy's limped the button, which I recommend you don't do very much. However, you're going to find that your opponents will do it from time to time, or maybe constantly. I'm not mad on raising this hand, even Jack's double suited out of the blinds. Another day I might have after that limp, especially if I thought I could run him over after the flop. I hit a decent flop for our hand though. Alright, well let's bet this hand and then come back over here. Again, a really small raise, a really unusual size raise. Let's check this one back. I think I'm going to call and see what the river brings. It's a club, which isn't good for us. Really, he has to have something to call the flop and raise the turn, so it's hard. It's likely he's a 4, which would almost certainly beat us. Straight, it could have rivered a flush. So I'm just going to give this hand up. And this is no good. And it would be nice to see what he had there, what hand he was making that play with. This is a really weak hand here. And this one isn't great either, but they're both, neither opponents seem all that good. We can play some pots against them. What have I hit here? Top pair. I suppose I'll bet this hand. It's a good chance to be the best hand. This guy hasn't been getting too out of line. And this is a good card to double barrel on. We've turned a bit of a wrap here. Any 2, 3, 5 or 6 or 8 maybe? No, just 2, 3, 5 or 6 gives us a straight. And I'll call this hand. And not this one. This one over here we have 3 connected cards. And I let it go with only a good shot. And I let this one go as well. Alright. I haven't 3-bet him yet, but we'll see what... He's been raising frequently enough. So it's not like we have to worry about only running into premium hands. Even though he hasn't raised all of his hands from the button, he's raised enough. We've hit a fairly decent flop, and I'm going to try and get all the money in here. I would rather if he went away, but getting all the money in is also a decent option. And he hit a hand, okay. And over here, I guess I'll try bluff the turn here. I would prefer to have made this bet a little bit quicker, but there wasn't always time. And these paired boards, especially against a straightforward opponent, there's a good chance they're just going to give up if they don't have the pair on the board. So you can usually bet any four and get away with it. This guy hasn't been quite as aggressive as the other guy pre-flop, but he still raised a fair few hands. We've got a decent hand here to put some pressure on him. And I flopped a kind of awkward hand here. There's straight possible on the board. I do have a draw to a bigger straight, inside draw, and I had a flush draw. But it wasn't really a great flop. And here we've top pair and the nut flush draw. It's a very good hand. And a straight draw, in fact, any five. And over here, this guy donks into us. We call it donk bet. It's when you lead into the player who's been the aggressor on the previous street. It's an unusual tactic because I've been betting so much when checked to. What hand could he be leading with that he wouldn't just check and let me bet first? I don't know. There's a chance he's a weak hand, a strong hand, or a draw. All those are possible for a more or less unknown player at the moment. At least we haven't seen him do this before. And okay, I let this go. Yeah, I let it go with just top pair and no draw against the strange raise. And I'll just check back here. I just get the impression for some reason he was willing to call a turn bet, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't pay us off now as well. Oh, he doesn't. Okay. And in this case, I'm leading into him. It's a much less chance that he will that he was going to bet this that very coordinated flop than that I would have in the other case. What have we got here? We flopped a kind of weak straight draw, and he checks back. We'll bet this. It's going to be tough for him to call without a king or a queen. Over here we've got a flush draw and a little pair. And I'll just give up here. I'd say there's a chance he's a king or a queen here. And this is again interesting. I was planning to bet the turn if checked to. It's hard for him to represent a monster hand. Hard for him to have a monster hand here. So I think I'll just raise and hope to pick that pot up there. And I think this guy might be a little bit frisky, might be making moves in situations like that. Even though we haven't got to see his cards yet, I think there's a good chance he hasn't really had the hands he's been representing. And no pair here, not yet. Over here we've got a straight, not the nut straight, but still pretty good. I wouldn't have been the end of the world if he raised us on the turn there either. At least the way he's been playing, I wouldn't have put him on the nuts. However, that's a pretty bad card for us. Let's check and see what he does. Alright, well. If he bet, I was planning to probably fold, even though it's a good spot for him to bluff. And here he donks into us again. I'm going to call here with top pair. This is one of the hands you could consider checking behind here. No pair, but I do have a nut good shot and a backdoor flush draw. Okay, I'll check behind just to mix it up. I think against this guy it might be best to just bet the flop anyway. He hasn't been that aggressive, hasn't been check raising me that much. And I'll bet the turn instead. And I'll just check this back here. And I river my straight. Not quite the nuts, but given the action so far, it's hard for it to not be good. And I'll check here. I think there's a chance my hand is good here. Alright, well this is good to see what hand he led the flop with. He's got king 3, queen 7 double suited. Okay pre-flop hand, and he flopped a straight draw and a flush draw. No, I'm not sure why I was thinking of leading this flop. I've got a bad flush draw, but no, I think I'll just give up. Big double suited cards here. And what have we got here? Okay, we've 2 red cards, but no flush draws. We did flop top pair and some kind of straight draw. I think there's a good chance this hand is good now, and I could do with protecting it against whatever hand he has. So I check raise. I'm happy enough to win that pot. Right there. And very often in Omaha, even when you expect you have the best hand, you should be happy to win the pot straight away. Because you have a hand that will lose money on future streets due to getting outdrawn, due to sometimes getting bluffed. And I'll lead this flop, which I won't do all that often, but it's such a dry flop. It's hard for him to call with a with most of his hands there. And I'll just give up now. Well, okay. I expect him to bet a 9 on the turn, but he checks back, so maybe he's only got something like kings or queens. I think I'll check anyway. Let him probably have this one. He could be slow playing a very big hand as well. And time to give up here. I think after I was called when the board paired. What's he got? A king, king 8, and I'll just give up here. I'm not. I certainly can't call that bet. Okay, flop bottom 2 pair here. Bottom 1 pair here. I think I'll just take a card off here and try and improve my hand. I did. I've made a straight draw and a flush draw. Good enough to call one more with. See what comes here. And that's not really a good card for me to think about bluffing on. It fits his play perfectly for him to have a king here, and I'm just going to fold. What do we get here? We've left an overpair of jacks and a flush draw, and another flush draw and bottom 2 pair, which could make a full house. So we've got a decent hand to be getting on with here. Not a good river for us, since it didn't make any of our hands. It could have made his 4-5. I'm going to check and call a bet here. The reason I was thinking of calling a bet there was because it really didn't look like he could have been calling me down with trips so far. I put so little money into the pot with 3 9s, and most of the other hands that beat me I expect to check back the river. There's some showdown value. Over here we've hit a nice hand. And here as well. 2 sets of trips. A full house over here. In a longer handed game, I would sometimes check back with a small full house there. Maybe not this particular case because it's likely that I can get outdrawn by someone with 3 queens. But certainly in this case, it's important to get full value from a hand like that, and there's every chance he will call me down with a much worse hand. And normally I raise the full pot here, but it doesn't really matter. I misclicked, but it's not a big deal. And we've got a kind of a premium hand here, 4 big cards and a suited ace. And I fit this flop extremely well, a wrap and a nut flush draw. And what have we got here? Nothing at all. I kind of hit this flop over here, top pair and a straight draw. A decent nut straight draw. And here I've made a straight draw. So even on these paired boards, you can bet your draws, you can bet your hands like this. So this is an interesting situation because I think there's a good chance that he's called me with just a draw on the turn, and that he might fold a better hand here. He might fold something that beats 8 high. Or again, it's possible he called me with a jack or a big pair, and I certainly can't call him there, and I certainly don't want to re-raise bluff. And over here I probably should bet the flop. I'm up here with the small cards. I think I'll call here and fold the river. I think there's a chance that he's bluffing with something that doesn't beat R9. Not such a good chance after he bets twice. And here he's led into us. We'll give him credit for having some piece at the board, something that beats us. Okay, and I haven't done this very often either. He's limped a fair few times, but I've never raised from the big blind. This is a fairly mediocre hand, but I just decided to mix things up a little bit and raise from here. And he calls very quickly on the flop, despite there not being very much. I'm going to fire the second barrel here. And I kind of expected him to be on a draw. The only possible big draw has just got here with the ace 2 3 4 5. One or the other. I don't think it's worth bluffing him again. A lot of his other hands, that if he had a draw like ace 4 or ace 5, maybe he's now hit 2 pair with those. Well, what does he have? Kings. Okay, so the ace was kind of a good card for me. I didn't really think he could call down one big pair, since aces or kings is likely to have raised pre-flop. And here we've got some kind of pair and a gut shot. It's a good chance we've got the best hand here. Over here, not so much. And Jack is probably head, and we have a little gut shot here as well. And this guy is 3-bet for one of the very first times in the whole match. After, I don't know what, 40 hands or so. So I'm certainly going to call this, see what the flop brings. I have to think there's a good chance that he's got a big pair. He should really know that as well, but I don't know how smart he is, how much he thinks. I'm just going to check this back, because I think so far this guy's looked like he likes to see showdowns. He's likely to be checking, intending to see a river. So even though I've made a decent straight draw here, any 5 or 10, it's kind of hard for me to. I don't really want to bluff there. I'll call here, and that's a pretty decent flop. He made the second nut straight and the nut flush draw. It's such a coordinated board that I would be tempted to. Okay, he does have a big pair here. That I'd be tempted to just bet out because I'd be scared of him checking behind. But instead, I went for the check raise here. And again, it's so coordinated the board, he might just fold here. Oh, he doesn't fold. He calls, and we win a big pot over here. And I mean, you can say he slightly overplays his hand here. He's only got aces and a little gut shot, and he's got top pair as well. It's hard to fold him too much for getting stacked with that hand here. And this guy here, 3-bet again. The last time he had ace, queen, jack, jack, double suited, I believe. I was kind of surprised he didn't bet that river with the 3 6s on it. I think I'll believe him again here and check back. Well, I was actually thinking of betting this turn if he checked. Alright, well I do have 2 straight draws and top pair. I've hit one of the straight draws. I really expect him to check here and maybe call an $18 bet, $17 bet. I don't know if he was thinking of betting there, or if he just wants to scare me into giving him a showdown. I think there's a chance he might fold for the full pot, so I'm going to just bet this much. And maybe he didn't have anything anyway. Oh, over here, this new opponent, completely unknown opponent, is bought in for the full $100 on this deep table, 200 big blinds deep. And he check raises me, and I've got a wrap on this flushy board. I don't really want to 3-bet the flop this deep. I risk running into a better hand with even any kind of pair and flush draw. However, I certainly want to get it in on this turn. I've got the nuts. He does not have the nuts. And okay, this. When I talk about reading your opponents, then now at least we know this guy might go nuts with a very weak hand here, with just 2 pair on that board. And I almost want to build the pot again and 4-bet him here, but I'll just let it go. I think that would be a little bit spewy. And over here, what could he have called me with? I'll call one here. Let's check back here, and there's a chance I've got the best hand with 3 4s. And well, this is an interesting spot. He went nuts with two pair last time. Um, I was going to say it's an interesting spot because I should probably call the river if he bets there. Um, After seeing what he's capable of, it's hard for me to think he checks back with a very big hand on the turn. And the river completes nothing, doesn't complete any draw. It might have given him 3/8, so I was planning to uh, to call the river there. And you might think that okay, he showed down a worse hand, so I was right in my idea that I should call the river. But if anything, that's evidence that I probably shouldn't have called the river. He didn't turn that hand into a bluff on the river. He wasn't bluffing as much as I thought he would, and I thought that probably was a good spot for him to bluff the river. I'll just check here. It's a very coordinated board, and this guy seems to be aggressive, likes to play around, and this is yeah, I'm gonna make a tight fold here. This is a new guy over here, I think. Yeah, it was never felt so good. I was playing a minute ago. Just fold this hand. It's so bad. It's hard to make anything with it. And we fit nothing here. So I think against this guy, I'm gonna be playing some big pots, whether I like it or not. But my plan is going to be to play some big pots and win some big pots. Not to concentrate so much on winning the small pots with this guy. All right. Again, I don't have a very good hand here, but if I'm going to get 3-bet all the time, I might as well call, play some pots in position. I've hit a pair and a flush draw, and you might think if he bets here, I call. Well, I don't really know what to do in the turn with most of my hands, but the important thing is that he doesn't know what to do with most of his hands either. He's just as stuck as I am. I'll bet here. In fact, he can be more worried about my hand than I should be about his. Okay, so it seems kind of wrong to want to stack off here with just the second nut flush. However, I really do want to call him if he goes all in now. I think just the way he's played so far, he's been that little bit spewy. Would he be just as spewing in this spot? I think probably he would. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and think he probably would. I guess most players, this is probably an okay spot to fold. Alright, and this guy, he does have it this time. Don't know much about this guy, but I've got a decent hand in the big blind. Gonna raise it up after its limp. And over here, I've got another king high flush draw. There seems to be coming here. And what is he doing here? I've got two jacks here, which makes it tough for him to have a straight. But he probably has two pair or something, and I can't really call. I'll just bet here. I think there's a good chance to try and make a move here, but if that happens, I'll just throw away my hand and go on to the next one. Alright. This guy 4-bet me before, maybe he'll do it again. Not this time. This is going to be an interesting spot if he calls here. If he raises, not so much. I can't... I don't have enough hand to want to really go to war with him here with so much, so deep. And it's not really like I'm going to get run over by folding this hand because, you know, just as often here I'll have hit something, I'll have got a nut flush draw or top pair and a straight draw, something like that. Over here, I checked back some streets here. I've got an 8, I guess. What hands can he? I have to think. What hands can this guy really be betting for value here? Could he have checked the 3 twice? Oh, he only has to check it once, but still, it's kind of hard to check it on the turn. I'm going to call it here. I think there's a good chance he's just bluffing. Oh yeah, he's got a top set, top full house. And over here, I've got the nut flush draw and 2 straight draws. So I'm going to go to war with this hand. Or I would if he would give me the chance. And I've hit a good hand over here. An okay hand here. That's a really good card for me because whatever happens, he can't really have hit anything. I've still really got the nuts. Oh, I've hit top 2 pair here. This is not such a good card for me. It fills some of the straight draws on the flop. Fills the backdoor flush draw if he got here with that. But he's checked. Well, is there value in betting here? I like to think there is. I think maybe he might call me with 2 pair. It's also possible he has the straight. I think he would probably shove any flush, but he might have checked the straight. But otherwise, I think I'm ahead. And the flush draw comes in, which is not nice, which was on the flop. It's probably the most natural draw for him to have. I think this is a decent spot to fold. That's not a great hand. Let's fold this one. Oh look, I've hit 3 4s and top pair and a straight draw over here. 4 4s. He's only got, what's he got? 770 behind. You can bet here. Leave 520 to bet on the river. Strange that this guy was going nuts quite a bit post flop, but I meant to bet the full pot here. It doesn't really matter. But he's been going nuts post flop. He's been playing quite aggressive, but he's been limping in pre flop on the button. Especially playing this deep, playing almost 400 big blinds deep. I really think he's leaving a lot of money on the table, a lot of value by limping in the button. And he has to expect to win more money from the button if he just raises. And here, I'd kind of forgotten just how short this guy was. Haven't got very much. I've got a pair and a backdoor flush draw. And some overcards. I'm going to call him. And, well, I'm not quite ahead, but I've certainly priced in to call. And I think he wins. Yeah. Over here, still got top pair. It's hard to imagine me getting called by anything worse here. I'm going to check and hope he bluffs. He hasn't really been as bluffy as I'd hoped for today, but after seeing the first few hands. But still, it was hard for him to have a better hand there. Let's follow this. What have we got over here? We've got a bad straight draw. And if we check and he bets, we'll be pretty much all... Sorry, if we bet and he raises, we'll be pretty much all in. So I'm just going to check back, see if we can see a good turn card. That's not really it. Um, Often I would just bet this flop, these three flush flops. I obviously have nothing on it, but there's a good chance he'll just give up. I'll just fold here. And I'll check this one. And let him have it. Alright, now this is a pretty loose bet here. We did have a good shot. Oh, our most likely hand to bet with was an ace, so we might fold him off something. Unfortunately, it's also his most likely hand here, so I'm just going to check and give this one up. Over here we had what's he betting with? We had one pair. We've now made one pair and a bad straight draw. Even for the small bet, I can fold this. And this guy's calmed down a little bit after those first big pots. Maybe he's locked it up a little bit. And well, we don't have a very good hand over here on the left. No suits, not all that connected. However, I think I like the chance to take him on when he's just this amount, double the pot left behind. It's easy enough to stack him when we flop something, and if we miss completely, we can fold. Here, I've got some kind of bad straight draw. Kind of missed that flop. And let's re-raise this hand. Have a big pair, some connecting cards here. And right, well, he probably wants to okay, I can bet here at the start. This is a good example of how I should think of this before getting this far. I think I'll just fold. And he has the aces. Okay, as advertised. On this flop over here, we've got the most likely draw has come in, the king jack. There's no flush draw out there, and that was the biggest straight draw. I'm just going to fold this hand. I think betting was still correct though, because he doesn't have to have king jack. And he bets very small here. I'll peel off one more card here with this bad draw. And I'll just give up. I'm not going to try and bluff this guy. Okay, I might as well bet here. I've got the aces. And this guy... Well, okay, this guy suddenly got reasonably deep. I think we might be able to scare him off this hand, given that we have the lone ace here. And he should fold a flush here. Whether I can push the river or not is a different question. Alright, well, I didn't expect this on the river. I guess the pot is so big that I'm going to call and pay off a flush, but there's a chance he just has trips. Or indeed nothing. One pair. So I kind of misread him there. I thought he probably had some kind of decent hand to call a big raise on the turn, and if I'd really known that, I wouldn't have bluffed him with the aces. top two pair here. It's been messy in the last hand or two. And we have a straight draw if things go wrong. What did he hit? Oh, everything really. Alright, well that's going to be about it for the video. I'm going to play this hand and then I'm gone. I'm not going to play this guy either. And I'll just let him go there. So, I'm not sure how we did there. I think we might have won a little bit of money in this heads up session. I hope it's given you some idea about the pace of the game, about how to play heads up, about how to try to tailor your game depending on how your opponents play. If they're going to call you, if they're going to bluff you, if they're going to check raise you. I hope you've seen a little bit about being aggressive, about thinking about what hands your opponents could have. I think that's something I didn't do enough of in this video because the action is quite fast. I would like to spend more time on some of the hands, but they move on so quickly. So if you also read the essay that comes with this hand, you'll get a little bit more wisdom on that. So thanks very much for listening.